You think your car makes you special? This neighborhood doesn't need a show-offs like you. That McLaren is a threat to our community.
A threat? Randall, it's just a car. The only danger around here is you pretending to be a cop.
I am the law here. If you don't remove it, I'll make sure you regret ever parking it in my sight.
Funny, because I've got footage of you touching my car, and when I'm done, the only one regretting anything will be you. You ever buy something that means more to you than just money? Like, it's not about showing off, it's about proving to yourself that the years of grind were worth it. For me, that something was a matte black McLaren. Sleek, custom-built, and mine. But here's the thing. When you park a dream car in a neighborhood full of people who've got nothing better to do than gossip and police their neighbors, your peace won't last long. And in my case, my biggest headache didn't come from the HOA board or some nosy Karen across the street. No, it came from one guy. A man who decided he was the law of the neighborhood, even though he was nothing more than a wannabe cop in a neon vest. This is the story of how he tried to ruin my life and how it completely backfired. When I tell you I worked for this car, I mean it. Years of overtime, saying no to vacations, grinding when my friends were partying. And the promise I kept to myself was simple. Before I die, I'm going to own the car I've always dreamed of. So the day I parked that matte black McLaren in my driveway, it wasn't just a purchase, it was a symbol. Every curve of the car, every reflection of the sunline off that paint was a reminder that I'd earned it. The neighborhood seemed like the perfect place to enjoy it too. A gated community, quiet streets, retired couples who seemed more interested in their rose gardens than what car I drove. At least, that's what I thought. The peace didn't last long. The villain of this story wasn't an HOA president. It wasn't some stereotypical Karen with too much time on her hands. It was Randall. Who's Randall? Well, officially, nobody. Unofficially, the self-proclaimed HOA cop. He wasn't on the HOA board, he wasn't security, he wasn't even respected by anyone in the neighborhood. But what he did have was a neon safety vest, a laminated fake badge he probably printed off the internet, and the attitude of someone who desperately wanted power. If you've ever met the kind of guy who peaked in high school football and never got over it, you know exactly the type. That was Randall. The first sign of trouble came in the form of a letter. I came out one morning, coffee in hand, sun shining, ready to admire my car, and saw a folded piece of paper tucked under the wiper. At first, I thought it was a flyer, maybe a landscaper offering their services. But no, it was a handwritten note scrawled in angry letters that looked like they'd been carved into the paper with fury. Your car is a threat to our community. It's too fast, too flashy, and dangerous for children. Remove it within 2 weeks or further action will be taken. I laughed out loud, like really laughed. Took a picture, saved it in a phone folder I called HOA Clowns, and went on with my day. Why? Because the HOA handbook said nothing about cars. No rule about makes, models, or even colors. I wasn't speeding. I wasn't disturbing anyone. My car was legally parked in my own driveway. Meanwhile, Randall was the one racing around the neighborhood in his rusty Dodge Charger, blasting his muffler like a lawnmower and yelling at kids to respect the rules. I figured it was just some jealous nonsense. I didn't take it seriously, but I should have. 2 weeks later, day 15, I stepped outside, coffee in hand, and froze. My McLaren was unrecognizable. Windows shattered, tires slashed, paint stripped away like someone had taken sandpaper to it. The whole car looked like it had been dragged through a riot. For a moment, my stomach dropped. Years of work destroyed overnight. Then my neighbor Denise appeared. She looked around, nervous, then leaned in. I saw Randall out here last night with the landscaping guy. They were near your car. I thought it was weird." Weird? This wasn't weird. This was criminal. But instead of losing it, I smiled because Randall had no idea my porch light wasn't just a porch light, it was also a camera. I pulled up the footage, and there he was. Randall, in his neon vest, hammer in hand, ranting to himself about neighborhood safety as he smashed my car. I knew exactly what to do.
The next morning, knock on the door. I opened it to find Randall himself, vest on, sunglasses perched, clipboard in hand. "You've ignored official HOA directives," he barked, puffing his chest out. "Your car endangered this neighborhood. I have the right to enforce action. Consider yourself fined." I almost choked on my coffee. Fined? By who? The HOA handbook doesn't even mention cars like mine. And last I checked, you're not law enforcement. His jaw tightened. He leaned closer. "I am law enforcement for this community. If you don't like it, leave." That's when I smiled. "Funny thing, Randall, I've got video of you committing felony vandalism. So unless you're planning on fining yourself, I'd suggest you back off." For the first time, I saw him turn pale. Then he muttered something about calling the board and stormed off. A few hours later, I was summoned to an emergency HOA meeting. Randall had clearly dragged the board into this circus. At the head of the table sat the president, a woman named Marka. She smiled tightly, trying to keep the peace. Let's be reasonable. Randall was just acting in the community's best interest. Maybe the damage to your car was excessive, but I cut her off. There's no maybe about it. He destroyed a $250,000 car, and you're defending him? One of the quieter board members cleared his throat. Technically, Randall doesn't serve on the board. He volunteers. Volunteers. That was rich. So not only had this man destroyed my car, but he wasn't even authorized to represent the HOA. That was all I needed. I handed everything, the footage, the damage reports, the letter, straight to my lawyer. And he wasted no time. Charges were filed: vandalism, criminal mischief, and impersonating an officer. That last one carried real weight. Randall wasn't just a nuisance anymore. He was facing prison time. When the cops came to arrest him, it was almost poetic. In my driveway, in front of the same neighbors he used to lecture, they cuffed him while he sputtered about being framed. Kids pointed, parents shook their heads. His little vest and fake badge didn't save him. And that should have been the end, but it wasn't. In court, the footage spoke for itself. Randall, in full wannabe cop mode, hammer in hand, screaming about illegal cars. The judge leaned back, pinched his nose, and said flatly, "Sir, not only were you not authorized by this HOA, but you destroyed property worth more than most people's homes. You're looking at prison time." Randall's lawyer tried to spin it, tried to blame the HOA, but the board didn't even show up to defend him. In fact, they distanced themselves so fast, you'd think they'd never heard of Randall. By the end of the trial, he was convicted, ordered to pay restitution for the car, damages for impersonating authority, and my legal fees. He lost his job, his credibility, and eventually, even his house. But the chaos didn't stop with Randall. Neighbors found out that the HOA board had knowingly allowed him to parade around pretending he had authority. A petition spread like wildfire. Within weeks, the entire board was dissolved. People were done with the nonsense. And me? I got a brand new McLaren, paid for by Randall's downfall. Now, when I sit on my porch, sipping coffee, watching the sunset reflect off that car, I can't help but think, you can dress like a cop, act like a cop, even scream like a cop. But the second you abuse fake power against the wrong person, the only thing you enforce is your own downfall. Randall thought a neon vest and a cheap badge made him untouchable. Turns out, it just made him unforgettable, for all the wrong reasons. So what do you think? Did Randall get what he deserved, or did he get off easy? If someone destroyed your car, would you press charges or handle it another way?